Berlin, March 1955. 73 miles an hour, C-class, world record. Same year, König sweeps every European championship. That is one family, in one small German shop, beating the entire American outboard industry. They kept beating it for 40 more years. Then the name disappeared completely. Nobody bought it. Not a bankruptcy, not a takeover. Nobody bought it. And to understand how that happens to the best racing outboards anybody ever built, you have to start in an attic. The König story begins in the late 1920s, on the top floor of a building on the Fontane Promenade in Berlin. Not a factory, an attic. Rudolf König built 1-horsepower motors up there by hand, and his first real success was a side-mount motor for canoes and folding boats, the first ever built in series. Then the motors got bigger, and in 1935, that shop produced the engine that changed the arithmetic of the sport, the König J. It set 2 straightaway world records. Those records stood for 18 years. 18 years, against every American manufacturer with a real factory behind it. And the record holder was a man in an attic. That same year, König built its first true transom engine, the shape you picture when you picture an outboard. And here is the detail that tells you what kind of company this was. Rudolf's daughter, Margaret, worked in the shop doing pattern work and building the sand castings by hand. His son Dieter raced the boats and designed the motors. A König was never a product. It was a family's hands. Hold on to that, because it is the whole ending. By 1955, Dieter had swept every European championship there was, set 2 more world speed records, and put that 73-mile-an-hour C-class mark on the water in Berlin. In Europe, he had run out of people to beat. So in 1956, he crated the engines up and shipped them to America. He was 25. His first appearance was the World Championships at Minden, Louisiana. 350 entries, essentially the entire American racing establishment in one place. He won the C division. He also finished second in A and was thrown out of it because he had not gotten a United States inspection stamp on his motor. That was his welcome. The engine everybody in that pit was trying to beat came from Quincy, Illinois, from a shop called Quincy Welding, run by O.F. Christner and his sons. And this is the part I love. It is not a story about a corporation crushing a small builder. It is 2 family shops, one in Illinois and one in Berlin, 4,000 miles apart, spending 20 years trying to outthink each other and dragging the whole sport forward while they did it. König turned up in 1957 with megaphone exhausts borrowed off European road racing motorcycles, and the A-class engines went from temperamental to dangerous. Christner answered with his own open megaphones on the Mercs in 1958, back and forth for 2 decades, and Dieter was a gentleman about all of it. In 1961, he lost track of the course during a heat, cut his engine, idled up to the official stand and asked in his careful English, "Are they wrong or am I wrong?" Told he was wrong, he shrugged and said, "Okay." They handed him the Sportsmanship Award. Second time he carried it back to Berlin. Then, in the early 60s, he stopped being polite about the engineering. König threw out the deflector piston, the cross-flow design everybody was using, and went to loop charging with a flat top piston. The effect on Quincy was brutal. Christner's modified Mercs could not stay with the new Königs without literally melting the dome off the deflector piston, because the heat had nowhere left to go. He had hit the physical limit of the part itself. So he went back to the drawing board, designed a loop-scavenged block of his own, and the first production Quincy Loopers came out in the autumn of 1963. An American racing legend exists because a Berlin workshop got there first. If you want to know why an engine actually died, and not just that it did, subscribe, because this channel is going to keep digging up the builders the industry forgot. And drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, and whether you ever heard a König run in anger. I want to know how many of you did. It got worse for the Americans. In 1967, König produced a 4-cylinder 350 cubic centimeters B engine. The first one into the country was tested and reported 5 miles an hour faster than the 2-cylinder it replaced. 5. By the 1967 Nationals, Königs were under Bill Siebold, Ron Hill, and Armand Ibert, taking titles in A Hydro, B Hydro, C Hydro, and D Runabout, up and down the card. A new factory went up in 1968, and then the story leaves the water entirely. In the early 70s, a New Zealander named Kim Newcombe took a 500cc flat 4-König outboard powerhead, built a cooling system for it, bolted a Norton gearbox behind it, and dropped the whole thing into a motorcycle frame. A boat motor against factory Japanese Grand Prix machinery. In 1973, he finished second overall in the 500cc World Championship, ahead of Agostini. He did not live to collect it. He was killed at Silverstone that August, at 29, at a corner he had complained about the same morning. 2 years later, Rolf Steinhausen and Josef Huber won the Sidecar World Championship on König Power, and won it again in 1976, the first 2-stroke ever to take that title. And they did it by breaking BMW's grip on the Isle of Man. That is the peak. A workshop in Berlin, beating Japan on a racetrack and BMW on the mountain, with an engine designed to push a hydroplane. König celebrated 50 years in 1977. The engines kept winning into the 80s and the 90s, still lighter and still faster than rivals many times their size. They branched into kart engines, speedway engines, ultralight aircraft engines, and nobody ever bought them. That is the strange part. There is no Brunswick in this story, no leveraged buyout, no accountant thinning the castings to save a quarter. Let me be fair about it, because this is the one time I have told one of these stories and could not find a villain anywhere in it. Nobody at König ever cut a corner. On August 17, 1991, Dieter König was killed in an accident. He was 60 years old. The German record says only that much, and I am not going to invent the rest of it for you. The company carried on a few years without him, the way a body carries on for a few seconds. The firm was wound up. In 1998, the doors closed for good. So why did nobody buy the name? Because there was nothing to buy, no dealer network worth having, no production line worth bolting onto somebody else's, no consumer engine, no volume. What König actually was a pattern shop, a set of sand castings, a daughter made by hand, a father's port geometry, and a son's ear for what a 2-stroke is doing at 11,000 RPM. None of that goes on an asset schedule. A König was never a product. It was a family's hands, and hands do not transfer. Every other engine story on this channel ends with somebody selling out. This one ends because a man died. I am not sure which ending is worse, but I know which one I respect more. If a König ever comes up for sale near you, and one still does now and then, buy it. Nothing else you can hang off a transom has that much of a person left inside it. And if you want the exact opposite of this story, the one where the money and the horsepower were both unlimited and it ended anyway, that is the video coming up on your screen right now. 7 Marine built the most powerful outboard in the world, and it still disappeared. All you have to do is click it, and I will see you in there.